You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 377, Common Ground, our full-length review discussion of the latest episode of The Bad Batch, which left us in an intriguing spot at the very end. Not to jump ahead, but to talk about that and so much more is Jonesy. Jonesy, welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well, man. How was your Independence Day holiday weekend?
It was good. It was raining, so there wasn't as many fireworks, and so
Right.
just a bit of disclosure, I guess. If we hear if you hear the big popping noises, it's because we're recording this on the 5th,
Yep.
and
Some
people
people
didn't
are
really,
playing catch up.
yeah, people are playing catch up. They didn't get it out yesterday because there was a lot of rain in the air. So
Right.
but it's been pretty quiet, so thankfully that's been okay. But otherwise, it was great. How about yours?
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing. There's a lot of popping going on outside the window here. So people playing a little catch up. But man, it was a good weekend. A lot of fun to have. And man, we had a lot of news last week or last
Star Wars news,
few days.
yeah.
Yeah, Star Wars news. I mean, besides you getting kicked in the face by one of your kids today.
Yeah.
Which was pretty epic, not gonna lie.
Well, Bill, that's Patreon exclusive material right there. So
Right.
look for that one here later. But and one other thing too, just as we're recording this, if anybody's joined us with a lot, well, I know we've got some people. I see them here on the live feed. If you hear the audio, if the audio is okay, let us know. If it's not, either way, we're kind of tweaking a couple things, trying to get the best quality sound that we can, and we made some changes. So hopefully, I'm coming in okay and everything sounds good. But if not, let us know if you don't mind in the chat there. So let's jump into the news, and this is a pretty big one. Why don't you start off with the give us an update on the High Republic flagship comic?
Yeah, it's cool. They have sold 1 million copies of the High Republic flagship comic. So this is really exciting stuff. I mean, it's showing you how popular selling 1 million copies of comics these days really is kind of a big deal.
Yes.
And it just shows you the quality of the writing. Charles Soule, I think, has been writing a lot of that. Is that right?
Yes.
And again, they've just got really good people doing all sorts of great things right now. And it's just cool to see that milestone and have that out there for a Star Wars comic. It feels like it's been a while since we've really had something to really, get enthusiastic about. And I'm glad the High Republic is starting to take off in that kind of way.
Yeah, and I said yes. It's Kevin Scott that's writing the
Oh,
main
Kevin
title.
Scott. That's right. Yeah. My apologies, Kevin
no,
Scott. I mean, everything is Kevin Scott 24 hours a day these days. So, I mean, goodness, this guy's a beast on Twitter.
He is. They were talking about this. They did a couple of interviews. We haven't even had a chance to talk. You and I haven't had a chance to talk about the book signing interviews they've done. They did a couple of those last week. They had one with Claudia Gray, Charles Soule, Justina Ireland, and Daniel Jose Older. And Charles Soule was the actual host. He was like hosting it. They were taking 200 and something questions, trying to get through those. I think they got to like 4, to be honest. But they had that. There was some stuff that came out of there. And just off the top of my head, the only really big thing that came from that, since we're talking about news and the High Republic, is they would not confirm that there are only going to be 3 phases to the High Republic era. So that's that could bode well for anybody that feels like, hey, this is a really good thing. And, at the end of year 3, if it's still doing really well, that sounds like they've not locked themselves or painted themselves in the corner, right? So
right. So why is that? So why is that news? Did they refresh our memories or refresh my memory early on? Did they say it was just going to be 3 waves, or that was the initial cycle that they had, or is that just us presuming things once again?
I think we were presuming things based on what Michael Sinclair had said. Who's like the what is he, like the executive producer, I guess, of this whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he, when they had come out and said, okay, it was going to be 3 phases, they would take us through the next 3 years. Everybody thought, okay, well, this will be, they started planning this out, mapping it out, thinking, okay, here's how it's going to break down. But no one had really, never really confirmed that it would only be 3. This was not a confirmation, but it was not a denial either. And there was a lot of quirkiness, a little smirking going on. So it sounded like it has the possibility to go beyond just the 3 years and the 3 phases. So that's exciting, especially considering how well the comics are doing. The books are doing really well. The numbers, I haven't seen any numbers yet on the Rising Storm.
And the reviews are are astronomical. They're fantastic.
Yes, and I know we've been talking about that one forever and said it was going to be amazing. I've already declared it as my favorite Star Wars book, and I know that sounds kind of
Ever, huh?
crazy. Yeah. The biggest one for me before this was, I thought I mentioned on the show, maybe I didn't, but the biggest one for me had always been Heir to the Empire. And
Mhm.
it's kind of like Raiders of the Lost Ark for me, where the book itself on its own, it's a great book in my opinion, right? But given the timing of it and where we were in Star Wars fandom and all of that, that had I guess a little bit of made it a little bit more special for me, and it's why it's
Right.
always kind of risen to the top. And I kind of put this in that same light. On its own, the book's amazing. It reads really well. There's a lot of this book, The Rising Storm, that reminds me of Heir to the Empire, just in the pacing and
Yeah.
how at the end of every chapter, there's just something that keeps you interested, kind of keeps you going to the next chapter, which you want in a great book.
Right.
And then just the timing of it all. I mean, not to say that we've had a bad run by any means of Star Wars
Mm-mm.
literature. I think there's been some great stuff out there, but this just feels like it's above and beyond even some of the best stuff that we've gotten in the last 2 or 3 years. And so for me, again, it kind of rose up there. But all that said, it's doing really well. The whole thing is doing awesome. So to bring it back to the story, 1 million copies back in 1992, no big deal, right?
Right.
Comics were selling 1 million copies left and right. We are living in the days of digital, prints being dead and
Right.
digital everything. So for it to sell a physical 1 million copies is a significant deal, and much less, it's not even like it's not a Marvel title. I mean, it's not a Marvel exclusive title or a labeled, comic.
Right.
Or I mean, I guess what I'm saying, it's not part of like the Marvel U, right? It's not
Right.
DC or one of the big players. This is a Star Wars comic that just happens to fit under the Marvel label at some
Mm.
point. So it's been great.
It's fantastic news. But hey, the news didn't stop there, did it? We got
No.
we got artwork and an interview with Cavan Scott. Once again, this guy is everywhere for Tempest Runner, which is the audio original, is what they are now calling them, not audio drama like we had heard with Dooku Lost, I believe
Dooku
is what they were
Lost.
calling it. Right. But we got an awesome cover with Lorna D right on there, right front and center, and a great interview with Cavan Scott where he was talking a little bit about where Lorna D, this picks up right after the Rising Storm.
Mhm.
And so I think Rising Storm is going to be, required reading. This doesn't come out until September. September? When does
Yes.
this come out? Yeah.
It's in the fall. I think it's in September on there. Yeah.
Yes, I thought it was like September 7th or something. I'm getting all with Star Wars Visions we're going to talk about here in a minute. All the dates are getting jumbled in my head, but this is a really exciting one. We really liked Dooku Jedi Lost, at least the performances for the most part, really good. And the story was interesting. And for this, it's going to pick up right after Rising Storm. We're going to figure out, she's been tested, with her, where she's at with the Nihil. I don't want to spoil too much though. It's really, he spoiled a lot of it. So it wouldn't necessarily be spoilers from your and my perspective, but I
Right.
think if you've not read The Rising Storm yet, we're not even a week removed from it coming out. We'll reserve some of it, but we're going to want to listen to this book, I think, and see the challenges that Lorna D is going through and really where do her loyalties lie and what's next for the kind of character.
Yeah, and not to give anything away, but she's in a very precarious position at the very end of this book, as many people are at the end of this
Yeah.
book. But her in particular, she's making some moves that you're just really starting to question and think like, what's her end game? What's her game plan here? And hopefully we'll get some answers filled in this audio book or what was it?
Audio original.
Audio original, or we get a better kind of direction, good sense of where it potentially could go at that point. So
I think at the very least, you and I want to know about Lorna D and just what goes through her mind. We only get little snippets of her from time to time. And I think she's one of the more interesting characters, but beyond the eye himself, right? But beyond Markion Rowe, she's the one that seems to have an agenda, and that's not an idiot about it,
Right.
effectively. So she's very smart. So again, I think this is gonna be a really good book, and it's the position she's in. I think it's a great environment and setting for this story to happen. So I think they've done well here with the establishing where she's at. I think it's going to be neat. Really neat.
No, I'm excited for it. They've done a great job with those so far. So, and then lastly, not to be outdone, it was Saturday. It was they were calling it Star Wars Visions Day, and I forget. Steph had mentioned where this was at. I just knew they were going to talk about it. I didn't realize it was kind of part of some kind of was it an anime convention of some sort, or?
Yeah, I think it was Anime Con or something like that. Yeah, where they had a panel basically, which was we were talking about is very peculiar for Star Wars to have a panel at an anime convention, which is totally fitting though. I mean, it's absolutely perfect, but it was still just very odd for that to be. It was just odd to see, not for it to be odd, but it's just odd to see. But this was really cool. Why don't you take us through a little bit about what they came out with?
So, and to your point, like it was odd that Star Wars would be at a anime convention, but with the news, it makes complete sense. You've got essentially 9 episodes coming out of a TV series on Disney Plus called Star Wars Visions. They have taken these 9 stories and they've allowed these very prominent, well-established creators of anime. And if you guys listen to the show with any kind of regularity, you know that both Jonesy and I aren't heavily into anime. There's certain things that I like. I certainly try to keep my ear to the ground to hear when things are coming up, that sort of thing. But I'm not into anime, as I know a lot of our listeners are and a lot of people are, and just in general. I mean, it's not a niche thing anymore. They've got entire TV stations or channels dedicated to this stuff now. But there are some pretty big players that they've brought. The cool thing is, and like it or not, what they've done is they've allowed the creators to really go out and create whatever they want without restriction, right? They don't have to fit into any kind of a canon timeline, or they don't have to worry about what's come before. All they've done is said, look, you've got the label, you have the characters, the title, the characters, the name. Do what you do best, which is tell great stories, great visual stories, great emotional, dramatic stories, and do it to the best of your ability, and we'll back you up 100%. And what we've got from this is 9 stories, and we're not going to go through all of these here, but some of them, if you've seen the trailer, if you haven't had a chance, go check out the trailer. Some of the stuff is just like mind-blowing in terms of like how they got there. Just some of the situations you see some familiar characters in, but then there's a lot of characters that seem like they're not, that it could be a character that we know, but there's a slightly different take to it, right? And so it looks a little different, or he or she or they look a little different. So, but what did you think of the trailer? I mean, I was honestly blown away. Like, it was really great stuff. I've seen a lot of anime from fan projects and that kind of thing, but you could tell like this was a clear cut above and beyond some of the stuff that you see from fan art and all that. These are the big guys in Japan that are cranking this stuff out, the big studios that are cranking this stuff out.
Right. Yeah. And that's no slight against the fan art and stuff out there.
Right. Not at all.
Which is fantastic. Especially, I think you and I are a huge fan of the TIE Fighter one that was viral on YouTube for a long time.
Great, yeah.
But it is something, and it's something to see this just out there in general. And you and I have been talking about what is next for Star Wars, and it really does feel like it is animation. And they've pushed it in a variety of ways, and we've seen it with Galaxy of Adventures. There go the fireworks. You get Galaxy Adventures, and now we get this. You're getting these different spins on the classic story and the saga. And again, like you said, this is cool because it's taking things we're very familiar with and situations and even character profiles, if not the characters themselves, but at least the character profile, and putting a very different spin on them, both visually and from a storytelling perspective. And in the interview, you really get this feel of the passion that each of these people has for Star Wars, but also just the excitement and the energy they have in order to tell a story that is engulfed in their culture as well. And I think that's going to be really, really neat to see, and just how different it's going to be. Some of them were very peculiar, like seeing basically, what I would call a katana blade. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that looks like a lightsaber, but it still has the shape. It's very, very interesting and very different, and there's a couple of these in here that always speak to us, and I think like the Elder, I always think of Mike with the Elder, right? So, passing of a baton to the next generation, master and apprentice, things like that, because he sits on his throne wherever. But so some of these are going to be very familiar to us, but I think they're going to be really, really good. The part that I thought was curious about, I want to get your take. So they technically are calling these short films.
Yeah.
Now, if we use, I don't know if this is accurate or not, if we use Pixar as the example, Pixar short films, of course, have been critically acclaimed. They've won multiple Academy Awards. You can do a lot with these short form storytelling. They have gone anywhere from 1.5 minutes, 2.5 minutes, all the way to like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right. And in that wide gamut there have been numerous Academy Awards for each of those kind of lengths, all in between. Are we going to see, is it going to be more like that? Something between a 5 and a 15-minute short film? Or are we actually going to see short film meaning like a 45-minute type of show or something like that? Because it's really not clear to me what what the actual structure is going to be to this series. None of
Yeah.
these aren't episodes in a series, right? They don't appear to be directly connected. As
No.
far as we are aware,
Right.
they
No,
didn't suggest that at all. But
yeah,
yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, first off, the fact that they're not connected, I think is well, the fact that they may not be connected isn't necessarily a bad thing either.
Oh, absolutely not. I think it's great.
If
Actually.
they were, wow, holy crap, that would be awesome too. To think about it, like you could just kind of watch these in succession or know that they're all driving each other. I didn't get that impression, but man, that'd be really exciting.
Mhm.
As far as the actual time, my gut tells me it's going to be the 5 to 15 minute mark. The only thing that I would argue against that is you've given these creators, and you brought up a good point that I wanted to touch on as part of this answer. These guys, when they showed a lot of the folks up there that were talking about having the opportunity, and they don't, they were all translated because most of these are native Japanese speakers, and
Right.
but what they were saying is, yes, finally, like I've wanted to do Star Wars my entire life, never thought this would ever happen, and now I have the opportunity to tell the story in my medium and not have strings attached, which is, I think, that alone is already going to set it apart from anything else we've ever seen, right?
Yeah, that's a
But
really big deal. Yeah.
it is a huge deal because if you're a creator and you've always wanted to get it and tell that Star Wars story, if you're landlocked, if you will, because you're not a native speaker, you're not, they realize they've probably acknowledged long ago, I'm probably never going to have an opportunity to do that unless I, get really good at English and make my way over to America and all this stuff. And suddenly here it is knocking on the door. Literally, they're saying, here's the Star Wars franchise. Have fun. Give us something creative, right? So from that perspective, I wonder if they really took the time, if they wanted to take the time and kind of milk it, if you will, and go for like the longer stories. I know I would.
Right.
But that said, because it's on Disney Plus, because they're not beholden to any kind of timeline, time frame, and to your point, because Pixar has demonstrated you can do a very powerful 5-minute story that
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
surpasses 2-hour movies with long exposition and character development. I mean, they can do amazing things in a short amount of time.
And they've done it without words too.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
You don't need a
Yeah.
script. Right.
Right.
100%. So I think that would be, to me, it feels like that's probably where they're going to land, is in that 5 to 15 minute mark. Again, we didn't get clarification as to if that's true or not. Either way, I think I'll be pretty happy. The closest thing that I can even think of, not to really bring this into it, was when the Matrix came out and they had that Animatrix thing that came out, right? We had all those different visions. I think we talked about this when it was first announced, that this is what it kind of reminded me of. And even seeing it now, it feels like that. Now, that one, I believe, was all kind of tied back into original stories. They really didn't have any kind of a they weren't allowed to kind of do whatever they wanted to. Visually and creatively, they could do it, but they were still beholden to like the actual storyline. This feels a little bit different and maybe even a little bit more powerful and exciting because they're not. So
exactly. Yeah. And Keaton had a comment down there. They said anthology series in the first look. And I think we have to make sure we understand what anthology is, though, because we've heard anthology before. Remember, that was what Solo and Rogue One and all of that was supposed to be, this anthology of really, they were material that were canon, but they were just individual story, that were out there. But, and I'm kind of viewing this as a bit of kind of like a Forces of Destiny a little bit too, right? That idea behind it, where you can tell these different stories, but they don't necessarily have to roll into one another, which I think is great because you don't have to worry about the story someone else has told before you either. Much like you were saying with the overall premise of Star Wars and everything they've got there, but you don't necessarily have to build a cohesive story across all of it. You can pick the thing and you can pick something so small and seemingly insignificant and make something really special about it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we're kind of waxing on about this quite a bit, but it's something that's really, it's really cool. So September 22nd on Disney Plus, right, is going to be the date this comes out. Again, no idea if this is going to be released all at once. It sounds like they might be rolling this out over time, which I'm actually becoming very, very okay with. It's working very well for all of Marvel and Disney's comments. Goodness gracious, content overall. So, but yeah, really exciting. As you can tell, we're over the moon on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I was typing out "party" in the front, "business" in the back.
Business, right?
Well,
new Patreon subscriber. Well, what segue?
Colin Shannon has joined the After Dark tier, which is the $2 tier. So thank you for joining that. And we'll get to Patreon here in just a little bit. So no, we can't thank you enough for that. So thank you so much. And hopefully you enjoy all the backlog of catalog stuff that we've got going on, and everything going forward. So
Yep. Make sure you go check out Chewie and the Porgs, like December 2018.
I know that's
It's the only
anybody
thing
else?
people. It's
Yeah.
the only thing I would subscribe to. I'd go
Right.
that. I'd go listen to it and just put it on repeat.
Drop $2 for 1 month. Join us. Listen to Mike doing Chewy and the Porgs. You can bail out. I don't care. I wouldn't,
Just leave a
fall through
comment. Leave a comment. Let us know you did it.
Yeah. Let us know you did it.
We
You were
want
the
to
one person that bounced in and out just to hear
Right.
that.
We just want to make sure Mike knows that it's something very special and he needs to go and do it again. Because we've been on his case for almost 3 years now.
And also, we've got our first $5 Patreon exclusive piece that you did. Congratulations on that. I finally got a chance to watch it. Awesome job on that part, sir.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, War of the Bounty Hunters, the alpha and issue 1 came out. Boba Fett has got himself in a pretty special situation by losing Han Solo. So again, this is something we've been very cautious about, the in between, the storytelling and what happens in between, how much do we want to know? And this one's off to a pretty special start, a pretty good start. It's engaged me enough to at least give it the next episode or the next issue or two to let it develop. So I'm interested to see where it goes. And the cover art, which of course is usually my favorite part of comics anyway, has been absolutely phenomenal. All of the variant art is super cool. And it is definitely worth just pulling up in the Comixology app and staring at the beauty that is, these covers, because they're just, goodness gracious, they're just really cool. But anyway, yeah, thanks. It was a lot of fun. It's a short episode, guys, like 10 to 15 minutes. So I hope you guys enjoy that and expect to hear more of that from us and see more of it. It's the first one we've done on video as well. So now that we've kind of got that ironed out, you can now watch our videos on Patreon.
Yeah. And so just quickly, I have everything written out for my first one. All my show notes are done. I've got the video the way I want it. So my plan is to record that this week and release it this week before Friday, because I'm not going to be here. I'm going to leave on Friday. I'm going for a few days. So before Friday, you guys will have that first one. And just so that you know, I'm going to be doing covering the High Republic comic book series. And this will be the first issue, and kind of breaking that down, giving my thoughts. And I have the benefit of having read all the books, including the one that's not been released, as well as now the 6th issue, which is the new storyline. So
that's what he was waiting on, folks. He was making sure that the 6th issue got into the loop. That's why it's not late; it's right on time.
Right on time. That way, I sound like I know what I'm talking about, and I know I'm just.
Hey, it is very timely and relevant. That's all that matters, Albert. I got your back, man.
That's very true. Thank you. But yeah, I'm excited to do that. It should be fun. So hopefully you enjoy that as well. Man, it is the 4th of July over there.
It really is, man.
I'll just hear it. Shots fired. Shots fired.
Okay. I can't get this noise gate to be sensitive enough without cutting me off.
No, you're fine. Yeah, that popping loud noise in the background. We'll try to edit that out. Well, no, who am I kidding? I'm not editing that out. We'll leave it in there. It's part of the flavor. Well, I guess that's it. We'll see you guys next week. Now, let's talk about... that
would have been a full episode. That would have been great.
We're at 23 minutes and just getting into starting to talk about Common Ground. Okay, so give me your thoughts on Common Ground. I've seen a lot of mixed reaction about it, but I want to get your thoughts first, and I'll give you mine.
Yeah, this was... this felt like a typical Clone Wars smash and grab type of episode, which we've had some fears about. But the more I thought about it, and the more the subsequent viewings of this, I had a little different appreciation for it, because there were certain things I am interested in. I got kind of different questions coming to mind. It was interesting to see the reactions of the clones about what it meant to go into the capital of the CIS, right, the Confederacy of Independent Systems, and like it really kind of test their loyalty of sorts, right? It just doesn't feel right. It's weird. It's why are we helping the enemy, basically, when this is just the economy, or the economy too, but just the political spectrum and the who are allies and who are foes. Everything has just been turned on its head, and this is the reshaping of where the galaxy is at large, and it's just in this state of change. And who are enemies before might become friends now, and we find a common banner to go under. I thought even the title of the episode was really, really cool, because what we've noticed is that the titles tend to have dual meanings,
double
sometimes,
meaning,
sometimes a third
triple
meaning, but
meaning.
yeah. So, and this one I think definitely had a couple of different angles of that, and it was neat without Omega to see what happens to the clones without Omega. And also, I like that we saw even Tech getting a little more friendly of sorts. And and some of the reactions, and again, some of these little moments we'll talk about here, especially towards the end of the episode. But I thought it was okay. It wasn't. I don't think it was not the one of the more interesting or exciting episodes, but I still liked it quite a bit. And I actually thought the droid was hilarious. I thought it was perfect. It reminded me very much of Phoebe Waller-Cates and her
GSA.
performance. Yeah, GSA as L3, and very much in the same kind of vein. And I thought it was a lot of fun. Actually, this is the first episode, Albert. I got to be honest with you. I started noticing mistakes in the animation. Like the droid had walked away already, but then in the next frame, the droid was back. There.
Yep.
Yeah, the Mandalorian key fob like just randomly disappeared out of the droid's hand all the time. It was there in one scene, and then you cut to the next, it was gone. I did like that they used a little Mandalorian key fob. I thought that was neat. I don't know if you saw that or not.
Yeah, no, I didn't catch that one. I caught the droid walking away because I thought, wait a minute, was there two? And then we round it, and I was like, oh wait, no, just the editing mistake. Which they could have just put that move in, that line where she says move in to attack or move into position. They could have put that before that, and it would have been just fine. But I get why they did it. It was more dramatic to flip it. But if you get a chance, watch that scene. You'll know what we're talking about there at the very beginning.
So what about you? What did you think about it?
It was so I felt like it was okay. Like it wasn't my favorite episode of all of them, but that's not flack either. I mean, there were like you, I was able to watch it and kind of get at least my own personal feeling for what they were trying to do. And for me, it just kind of boiled down that this was an opportunity to see the Bad Batch for the first time this series. Honestly, we've been talking about how they keep making mistakes and they're not in their element, and that this is all very much in their element. Like they were on a well-oiled machine and working like they had been normal in the past, and so that was exciting to see them be like this Delta Force kind of thing, or the commandos or the Green Berets or whatever special armed forces that you want to throw in there. I just felt like at times we got pieces of that in the past on these missions, but there was always something that was new and different to them. And now although they weren't necessarily fighting clankers, and which is kind of where their wheelhouse is, the fact that they were doing a special ops mission and they didn't have to worry, I guess, so much about a child. They were still a man down in not having Crosshair there, but it just felt like they were able to shine, at least in this episode, in every way. Like they really didn't make any mistakes. It was like mission in, mission out, get in, get out kind of thing, which was good to see. Like I felt like they kind of needed that. It wasn't, it was, again, there was nothing in here that was hugely jaw dropping, although I say that, and who knows, Sing's probably going to be some main character somewhere else, or, the fact that they've released him now has set off a chain of events that's going to, come back in season 2 or something, who knows. But at least on the surface, it didn't feel like there was anything too pivotal outside of the fact that we now maybe know what Omega's special power is, but we'll come back to that in a little bit too. I think it's still kind of to be determined. But
we finally at least have a clue. I think finally.
Yeah, I think we're at least been given something to kind of work off of. The only other thing that I had, I guess, a problem was, it was Omega being grounded again, and it was called Common Ground, but that it just felt like she was put behind again, even though she had already kind of proven herself, I thought, but maybe not. I get it. We'll get into that here in a little bit. I understand where Hunter's coming from and just kind of being overprotective as a parent. You kind of do some of that stuff, right? You say, oh, no, this won't, I trust you. And then something happens. You're like, crap, I can't trust you. I've got to put you back here because I know what's best for you. And you realize I probably shouldn't have done that. Went back on my word. So I get that. I mean, that seems like it's a very realistic thing to happen as a parent. So before we go any further, just the Patreon topic, I had called it The Old Ways Are Done. And we've brought this up. There is a reoccurring theme here. And I thought in this one, more than anything, and you kind of hit it out right out of the beginning, was the fact that they were embedded in a mission that they were having to go and serve the people they were once fighting against.
Right.
And that immediately, when I heard that, and this comes up a few times, especially from Echo, who has every right to be upset about this, the fact that they were doing that, the first thing I thought of was Saw Gerrera's comment in the very first episode of The Bad Batch saying that the old ways are done. And so I think for Patreon, what I want to do is just kind of get into and kind of explore some of the instances we've seen that now in the first, 8 episodes? What are we?
9.
9 episodes, yeah. 9 episodes of where we've seen that, because it does seem to be, among other themes, this is one of the more prevalent reoccurring themes that we're continuing to see. And I want to maybe even speculate on what else I don't think it's going to end, right? I think this is going to continue to happen. So
actually,
where does that go?
This was the 10th episode, if you can believe that.
Is it?
Yeah.
already lost count. Wow, 10th episode. My
I
goodness.
know we're almost done with this.
All right, well,
Ish.
let's step through this. I know we're almost done. What are we gonna do? We got plenty of stuff to talk about. Let's start because the opening scene was we finally got this. We were all expecting. I thought this was going to be like the finale, right? Because we thought they got walkers and there's ground forces and they're going in. Turns out that really wasn't the case, which is fine. But we got to return back to Raxus, which we hadn't been there. Oh my gosh, I don't even know. Clone Wars.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I'm trying to think if there was anything in the books. I don't recall anything, but anyway, going back to Raxus, and we start with this. What was it Captain Bragg? Is her name?
Captain Bragg, right?
I like how they give them names that like mean something, right? Like they're
right.
You can kind of twist it into
there's a connection,
bragging, boasting in some way. But and she's kind of giving her speech about how the Empire is here and they want to protect them, and we all know where this is going, right? They're strong arming these systems into kind of joining them. They're not really giving them an option.
Well, they give them the option. It's just it's choose now, or we'll go ahead and then we'll give you the option that you're going to pick. Right?
Right? Yeah. No, that's fair. They do give them an option. It's just not the options you would want sometimes.
Right.
But we know this is happening. We know that the Empire is coming in. They're pretty much giving you no options if they are, and making sure that you join their forces. And in return, it's you're maybe getting protection if there's something that your planet or system provides that's beneficial to the Empire. You're probably in a good scenario, good situation to kind of benefit from it. So it's a mutual benefit. But if you're not, the Empire just wants to ensure that they don't have to worry about you. And so they're going to, they may take everything from you and not give you anything in return. They may not give you all the protection and everything they've provided, right? And that's what's happening here. We're starting to see the beginnings of that. And this doesn't sit well with Senator Singh, who is a separatist senator. He seems like he got a good head on his shoulder. So he's probably one of the good guys who, unfortunately, was on maybe the wrong side of the war, right?
Right.
This fictitious war is made up war.
Sold a bill of goods, perhaps. Yeah.
Yep. Exactly. And now, as this isn't sitting with him, because at the end of the day, bottom line is he does care about his people, and he can't, in good justice and good faith, do this, and breaks away from that speech midway through. And the minute he did that, I thought, okay, well, he's done. They're gonna kill him. I didn't really,
right.
They were gonna arrest him for sure, but I thought for sure they'd just be done with him and put him out. But what really sets it off is Captain Bragg says they're going to impose a curfew,
right,
quote, for their own protection, which is not it. I mean, we know there's probably uprisings that are happening. The people are unsettled, and there's a lot of unrest, and so they don't want to have to deal with that. So they're just going to impose a curfew. I think we saw curfews in Rebels as well.
We did, yeah.
Yep. So it's not uncommon for them. This is what they were doing to kind of keep, quote, the locals in line. And in return, she kind of says that Raxus is going to flourish once more. So having been ravaged and war torn by the Clone Wars, this is an opportunity for them. So they're almost playing to. It goes back to that whole Germany thing, right, with World War II, where they were in such despair that somebody suddenly comes in and says, we're going to make everything wonderful again, and they get the buy-in of the people. This is exactly what the Empire is trying to do. They're trying to take advantage of the fact that there's so many of these separatist colonies that have been ravaged and not doing so well now. And here we are. We're the great savior. We're going to come in and keep you safe. Just need to join us, give us all your stuff, and maybe they'll follow through on that. But tell me, I guess, your thoughts as you're seeing all this, because it is the inklings of the beginning of the Galactic Empire, more of it, which I think is exciting to see.
Right. Yeah, I think this is also an example of you have a separatist system, and the Republic won the war, and so you were already fighting against this entity, and now you can call yourself whatever you want. You can call yourself the Republic, you can call yourself the Empire. The occupationists are still in your world now. And so they're trying to convince these people, and convinces, again, we use this very loosely because it's just not the case, but you have this uphill battle against you already. But you've got to break the will effectively of these systems. And where are you going to start? You really should start right at the heart of it, right? So where did it all, I don't know if it began there, but where was it centralized, right? And I don't remember the name of the city in Raxus, but this was the capital of the CIS. Raxalon, there you go. So this was the capital. And so you need to go in, you need to establish yourself there and show that you are there. Now, granted, the Empire's being pretty intelligent about it on the surface of, we're here to help, we're here to rebuild, we're here to establish, peace and order. But at the same time, I mean, it looked like the city was doing all right. I mean, again,
right.
The capital cities don't necessarily take all of the damage in Star Wars, at least. But it's a they quickly just lose the patience for it. The Empire isn't going to spend a lot of time. They're just going to go straight to the Iron Will. Now, I will say these walkers are the most stealthy walkers I think I've ever seen in my life. Where they all of a sudden they're just behind everybody.
Whoa, wait a minute, we didn't hear that coming.
Yeah, man, they are ninja. Man, they are amazing.
They really are.
But yeah, it was cool to see Raxus. It was interesting to see it so intact though, and I was conflicted about how I felt about Singh, the senator, because really they were the bad guys effectively of sorts. And now, granted, who were the actual bad guys? There's a ton of debate with that, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's where we've always been challenged at with the Clone Wars in general. The Republic wasn't altruistic, of course, at all. But anyway, it was interesting to see the other side of it. And one character I really liked seeing through all of this was actually watching Echo through all of it. You mentioned a little bit earlier, and we'll talk a little bit more about it as we go. But that was a really interesting one to see how he took kind of this journey through this mission as well. And not that it was real developed or anything like that, but it was interesting to watch Echo because, like you said, aside from Hunter's initial reaction, we didn't really get much reaction from the other guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Wrecker makes like one comment. Hunter makes a couple comments here and there. But yeah, this is not sitting well with Echo at all. And again, rightfully so, given what he's been through, right?
Absolutely.
So it's and the other thing that was called to mind for me was that whole, fear will keep the locals in line, right? You start hearing about,
right,
this is all Tarkin's. Do you remember Tarkin's doctrine from the Tarkin novel?
Right.
There was some of that in here. It was almost like she was kind of waxing that, which I want to go back and reread now because I'm curious as to whether or not they're kind of using that as a blueprint for some of these, the speech or maybe the propaganda that they're using. But anyways, in that speech itself, it did feel like it was kind of more of the fear will keep the locals in line speech or message that we got from A New Hope. But
right.
GS8 is his droid, and he kind of tells her, I guess they had some kind of prearranged agreement here about what would happen if he was ever captured, because he tells her, hey, follow through on the orders, and I'm paraphrasing here. And so once he's arrested, she scurries off, she comes back, then scurries off again. No, that's part of the mess up there on the animation. And she heads out, and she basically calls in a distress call saying that her master, I guess, or whatever, had been in prison, and they needed some help. And so, lo and behold, we kind of figured it's going to be a call out to Sid or the Bad Batch exclusively or directly. But from there, we cut over to the streets of Ord Mantell, and it looks like they're coming back, like they're eating Mantell mix. I'm wondering if it feels like this is right after the Cad Bane episodes. Like they just got back, and tradition's tradition. They rescued Omega, so it's time to celebrate. So it was good to see it. I like the way he was just kind of carrying her on his shoulder, right? All those kind of physical moments with him and her are really good. And there were other ones in this one too. In fact, I'm starting to notice a lot of stuff that happens off the main focal point in these episodes between Omega and or Wrecker.
Yep.
It was like 2 episodes ago. There was one where you were focused on Tech and I think Hunter looking at bombs or something, and Omega's running off and she kind of waves at them as they're going by, and Wrecker waves back, and they just kind of make this little, hey, how are you doing? Gotta go. And they kind of, pass by each other. Stuff like that is really cute because it's it's natural, it's authentic for kids. Sometimes they can be in the middle of something serious, and the next thing you know, they're playing around or having a quick joke. Or in this, they just came off a really tense mission, but the most important thing is getting that ice cream afterwards and sitting on Uncle Wrecker's shoulder and having fun. But all that was really good stuff as they were kind of coming back.
Well, and I liked it too when she dismounted from Wrecker's shoulder, I guess. Tech actually held out his arms to catch her if she stumbled or fell. And so it's nice to see Tech kind of changing a little bit. They're very, very subtle. Right. Again, but it's really cool to see Tech kind of warming up a little bit here too.
Yeah. Yeah. These are big moments for Tech.
Right.
Small things like that are huge. So,
yeah.
So Hunter says that they need to take a break, that they need to lay low. And so that, coupled with the fact that it sounds like they haven't really done anything. And I think he's got the fear in him now, right? I mean, we talked about this.
It's real now.
It's real now. Exactly. Because Omega looks fine. It doesn't look like she needs to rest. I think Wrecker says it, or somebody says.
Yeah, Wrecker.
Yeah.
She looks fine to me.
Looks fine to me. But I think he was just being overprotective here. He's been scared. They've lost her now in a big way. He probably feels responsible for that to some extent. And although he was all about, hey, this is your place, you're part of the squad, he relegates her to sitting back this episode, right? It was
Right.
almost like he was almost like pushing the good soldiers follow orders. I mean, she almost says that out of her mouth, right? To some extent. So
Well, she was pretty defiant, a little bit bratty in this episode too.
yeah,
So it would not have been out of character. Well, not totally out of character for her to throw that back in his face at some point, but that would have been a little.
loved it if she had said that back. Oh, good soldiers
that
follow
would've-
orders.
That would, well, yeah, that would have been, that would have been a knee to the groin.
Right, it would have been. That's the teenage years for children.
Right, she's not quite there yet.
Not
She's not.
there.
She's not Boba yet.
Yeah, it's coming though, Uncle or Daddy Hunter. Don't worry, it's coming. But yeah. So at that point, we're back at Sid's place. They walk in, and Sid. This is where she kind of tells him, "Hey, she's got a new mission. It's back on Raxus." They all kind of look at each other like, "What in the world?" I think later on, Hunter makes that comment about, or maybe it was Hunter, but someone says, "I think I always knew. I thought we would always come back there, go to Raxus, but never like this."
Right.
In their minds, they would be going to Raxus to
Storm the city.
the city, yeah, tear it down and liberate anybody that's there or whatever. But
end the war, yeah,
pretty much, yeah. But yeah, they're all a little concerned. This is where Echo kind of first expresses some disinterest or concern about really the Separatists, like what's going on here, and again, it goes back to that, the old ways are dead. They've got to adapt or they die with the past. And this is a huge example of that. But Hunter is like, no, he shuts it down. We're not doing this. There's no way. This is crossing the line, right? We're for hire. We're indebted to you because we've racked up debt from Mantel Mix and whatever else, but we're not going through with this one. And she reminds him of the debt that's owed. And she kind of, I guess persuades him into kind of doing. He breaks away from her, and
but really the most important thing that happened is we got a new nickname.
Bandana.
Bandana, not dark and broody. Although
broody.
She does reiterate that one, but yeah, Bandana is now catching on.
Yep. I wonder. That was okay. So what are the other muscles? Maybe that's going to be one for Wrecker.
Right.
Echo. What would she give him? Droid.
I don't know.
That's too personal.
Yeah, screwdriver. No. Walking terminal. I don't know.
I don't
now
know.
we're just getting
multi-tool. How about that? We'll call it
multi-tool. Swiss Army knife.
Swiss Army knife. Is there a Swiss in Switzerland?
No.
There's So where are we? Boy, that got derailed really quickly. So Hunter he gets away with Sid. He's kind of like, hey, let me go talk to you in kind of private here. And I think this is where he kind of is trying to tell her, look, normally wouldn't be against this, but the fact is, Omega is, you're sending us basically to go in the middle of a bunch of Imperials who are after, or I guess he's protecting Omega more than anything. And it's just, this is not a risk that he's willing to take. And so as a counter offer or as a solution, she offers, well, then just leave her here with me and I'll take care of her and you can go do your mission, which is probably all good for him, right? I mean, he feels like, okay, he must trust her enough. Although he says no, he doesn't trust her.
Right. He doesn't want to do it, but she's like, well, but it's in my best interest for you to come back and so I can get paid.
Yes.
So I will take care of her because that's in my best interest that you do your job. And we have a healthy relationship, basically. Yep.
So, I mean, it all kind of works out in the end, I guess. It makes sense that they would go through with this. But unfortunately, the person that has to suffer is Omega because she's doesn't take the news very well, that she has to stay back and she's not allowed to go. And she kind of just throws that in her face about, this is a soldier's orders. You need to follow orders.
Yeah, she was very, very direct with that. And not that doesn't make sense, but I think some of it was where she was like, I was part of the squad. I mean, he has reiterated that she was part of the squad. So this really feels like getting the rug, yanked out from underneath you. And it's really kind of catching her off guard because she's, getting all gussied up and ready to go back out and ready to start the next mission. And she's all into it. And that's kind of a gut shot for her. And you kind of felt for her because there's no reason she wouldn't expect to go back on these missions. And she clearly didn't understand the line of reasoning behind that decision either.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure Anakin's somewhere out there going, yeah, cry me a river.
There was a lot of similarities with all of that too. Right.
Right.
I mean, there were
what
a
I mean
lot.
is him trying to get his master rank, right?
Right.
He was like part of the group, but not really part of the group. And this is kind of similar, some parallels here, not to that same extent, but
Right. We want you to sit on the circle. We want you to get your earmuffs on whenever we talk about something
yes,
real important.
you can go sit at the little kids table. All right. So from there, Sid basically keeps her back, and she's got a special mission for her, which is cleaning. Not super exciting. And this all leads to something a little bit later. All right, we jump into.
You forgot, man. Alfonso and his friend are fighting as usual.
No,
I cracked
Alfonso.
up. They fought like 2 or 3 times this episode. I cracked up every single time. I absolutely love it. I don't know why. It's so dumb, but it's so great.
I looked up the actors, voice actors, and they're 2 of the main guys from Critical Role. That have you ever watched that podcast? I think it's
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's a podcast or a YouTube channel where they play Dungeons and Dragons. It's hugely popular, and I think that's the one where they bring on celebrities to play as well, and so they record these gaming sessions, and you can watch them. Pretty cool stuff. But the voices are 2 of the main people from that show. So.
Interesting.
There's okay, so we get jump over into hyperspace, and they're on the way to Raxus, and we learn that they're going to head outside the capital of Raxalon, which is typical for Star Wars. We never land in the main city. We always land a couple miles away and walk in, which is fine. But this is where Echo he expresses some more concern about, hey, these are the Separatists, and Tech reminds him that he won't shut up about it. Which again, I'm still waiting for that turn in their relationship, and it just hasn't happened yet. But they're still going at each other, and I think Tech's probably tired of hearing about it. He just seems so like whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's whatever the mission is the mission. Yeah, he may throw a fit about it or have some comments, but at the end of the day, he's not going to really push back. Whereas somebody like Echo's like, hey guys, I don't know if you've been keeping up on current events, but I just got tortured by these people. They are not these exact people, but by this faction. And here I am going into this mission. We're all going into this mission, and we have to go save one of them. He's thinking, let that person die, right? Who cares? They were on the wrong side of the war. But yeah, I mean, from that perspective, yeah, I think he's got every right to kind of express concern. And he doesn't even trust him. He feels like, I think he says this a couple times, that he's pretty sure that they're going to backstab him, and that this is all an elaborate trap or a ruse for them to kind of, get back at them at some point here.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think he's wrong to have that concern or have that underlying fear about it either, because clearly other things haven't gone to spec every time. So why not? And yeah, like you said, he's got every reason to distrust these folks. There's no reason at all. But yeah, I'm waiting for the day where Echo pulls out the backhand on Tech. But Tech is just all about the mission. Like you said, it's just, okay, we have a mission. We'll see how to get it done. No, here's the technical reasons of why we should do this or do that, and that's all there is to it. There's no emotion to it at all. And I was glad to see that from Echo, that, that there is that underlying, experience and fear and emotion behind his eyes. And you can kind of see it. I think they did a really good job of bringing that across with just the way that he's looking down and just the shifting of the eyes. You can tell how uncomfortable he really is with this.
Yeah, absolutely. At that point, they land on Raxus in the forest somewhere there, and they meet up with GS8 for the first time, who turns out to be the client. And even that is, their client is now a droid. They've been fighting droids almost their entire life, literally their entire life.
Although clearly not the same kind of droid.
No, but I mean, they probably don't have a big interest or attachment to droids. There's definitely a reason to distrust them. Although, like you said, it's not really the same model. And there were certainly droids in the Republic, but
sure, yeah.
So it shouldn't be unfamiliar for them. But yeah, the fact that it's probably a Separatist droid, I would think, okay, maybe it's got some weird programming, or that's probably where it's gone from, because she even says it's against my programming to even betray you guys or whatever.
Yeah, betray allies, I think.
Mm-hmm.
We're not allies.
Yeah. I like that. Somebody said, we don't care. Just take us where the senator is being held. Like, let's get this over with. Like, I think it was Hunter.
It was Echo. Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah, Echo pulled the gun. It was like, stop it. We don't give any kind of care.
Yeah. Let's just get this over with.
Right.
We flash back over to Ord Mantell, and Omega's moping around because, I think she tells Sid that life isn't fair, and Sid tells her that, yeah, it's true, life isn't fair, and that she needs to do something about it if she doesn't like it, which is interesting, because I thought, all right, is that going to play out a little bit later down the road? I think it will.
She called her out hardcore too.
Yeah.
If you weren't so weak and if you weren't such a liability.
She said helpless.
Yeah, they're basically just a liability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was giving the kids some harsh realities of, don't sit around and mope about it. Make a difference. Take care of things yourself and show them why you shouldn't be left behind.
Yeah, and that certainly it got some looks from Alejandro, or what are we calling him, Cliff and
Alfonso.
Yeah, that's right, from Robot Chicken. It got some looks from both of them. They both looked at her like, they were shaking their heads like, that's not how you talk to a kid. And she never apologizes for it. I went back and listened because I was like, well, maybe she wouldn't have said sorry. No, she never apologized, which is, I guess, fine. I mean, what she said wasn't untrue. It's just her bedside manners or her parenting skills probably need a little bit more polishing up on. But it's, I wonder if that. I don't think Omega's ever felt helpless though. That's the thing, right? I don't think in her mind she has ever felt helpless. And I'm wondering though if that somehow gets into her head. This idea, if you don't like what's happening, go change it. I wonder if that's going to set her on a path at some point to make a decision that she normally wouldn't make. And so maybe there is some good advice that came out of all of this, but we'll see.
It'll be interesting if it's something more than just paying off debt and being a whiz at the space chess at the Dejarik.
There's Blake Weaver. Hey guys, longtime listener. Thanks for all you do. Hey,
thanks for coming out.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, no, thanks for everybody else too. There's been we're seeing some new folks in here and some folks that are always in here, and we love that you're always in here. Don't take that the wrong way. But yeah, no, thanks for popping in. Okay, we get over to Raxulon City itself. I don't remember if they ever gave this thing a name in the Clone Wars.
I don't remember. It was just Raxus, I think. Right. But yeah, I don't think we actually ever. It didn't matter.
It didn't matter. Yeah. But I just thought, I was like, I've never heard that city before. But Sing's pretty well guarded, and this is where Echo confronts GS8 about being set up. And this is where she makes that comment about, hey, my program it doesn't even allow me to betray my allies. Right. And the first step is Hunter says we got to take out the camera system. Makes sense. They use GS8 as bait to kind of go out there, wave her arms, run back in there. They take those guys out. But here's one thing that was interesting, and I know I haven't really seen a lot of talk about this, although I've been pretty busy this weekend, so I haven't had a chance to kind of follow some of the people that I do follow. But this idea that they were really are, I mean, all of their blasters were set to stun.
Yeah.
They didn't really kill anybody. I mean, and they've done their share, right? I mean, I'm not saying they haven't, and the show has not pulled the punches, if you will, on the violence. I mean, you think about Crosshair and killing those people in cold blood and all of that. They certainly have gone there. They're not here now. And I just wonder if it's really in the back of their minds, they realize that these are their brothers, and maybe in the back of their heads or maybe off camera, we don't know yet. They've already talked about at some point we're going to have to free these guys or liberate them, or it's part of some bigger plan. But they certainly were set, no pun intended, set on not killing them and using the stun guns setting in this episode. Right. But what did you think there? Did you catch that?
Yeah, actually, it's funny you bring it up because Steph and I were talking about how this should be one of the questions of the week. So you might actually get 2 questions of the week this week, folks. One was, why were they set to stun the entire time, as well as another one. Where I came to, and you know me, I'm much more practical about these things. It made a lot of sense to use stun early on because they're trying to be covert. They're trying to not make a lot of noise. And it sounds like they don't have silencers in Star Wars. They don't know what those are, but it sounds like stun is about the closest you can get to it. So that's about as close as I got to it. And then why did they keep using stun is kind of the other side of the question, because by the time they were done with it, did they just forget to switch them back over, or was that really all that intentional? But you're right. They've not been bashful about taking out clones left and right. And at this point, we don't even know if they're still all clones or not, but probably mostly clones.
Right.
But that was about the far as I got, but she was very bummed if this didn't come up. So I'm glad that you brought it up. So it didn't seem like we were forced into square peg in a round hole, but yeah, that's where I came out to. Did you think anything more than that, or was it just
no? I don't think it was any more. I don't think it was anything like, oh, we're censoring violence or anything. Like I said, they've already made it a point to show that they're not afraid to show violence, and the way they did it was probably the best way to do it too, right? I mean, it's always scarier or more intense when you don't necessarily directly see it, right? And you see the reaction of other people through their eyes. I mean, And that's kind of what we got with Crosshair. And we kind of, even though it was a helmet, it was just kind of eerie to when that happened. So I don't think it was that. I do think it was probably along the lines of, hey, these are two things. One, stealthier. I went back and listened to it, and yeah, the sound of a blaster is so prevalent, right? And especially during this time, I don't think the Republic nor the Separatists or the Galactic Empire is running around on stun all the time. We saw it only one time ever in for a number of years in New Hope, and it didn't really come up again until much later on. And so I think one, they're not in the mindset to use this at all, and so it's not a loud sound. It's not as loud as a blaster. You probably don't have this. If you miss, you're not probably blowing a hole and there's smoke and everything else, right?
Right.
So there's probably tactical advantages for using this. The only thing I would question is when they came in and barged in, and I'll jump ahead just for this piece, but when they came in and barged in to rescue Singh, they did not take out Captain Bragg, and she's clearly a Galactic Empire person, right? So
No, they did.
Well, they stunned
didn't
her,
kill
but
her.
she came
Okay.
back, right? And that,
Yeah.
so some of that is okay. Some of that I get it. It's probably story, and they want to keep her alive. She's going to be a reoccurring character and all that. But
So what
even
about this? All right, sorry to interrupt, but so let's spin this around a little bit. That just came
Yeah.
to mind. What if it's to show the senator that they aren't killers and that they're not? I mean, they're kind of mercenaries in this, but the new good guys are not necessarily going to go in there guns blazing and just taking everybody out. And the new way isn't going to be so much like the old way of just blasting your way through everything.
Mm.
I mean, in close quarters, that makes a little more sense. I think in that situation, stunning those people instead of killing them in cold blood in front of a senator who presumably hasn't really been subjected to all the violence, at least close quarters. But why they would do that later whenever they're getting bombed and everything else from the other walkers and shot at, clearly without stun on, a little more difficult to play with that. But that was another tiny little thing I thought maybe was potentially, something you could throw in there. But
Well, no, I would agree that what you say is sound. Like, it makes sense. I don't know that they did that. I mean, I think your idea or reason is probably good, but I don't think that was behind it all. Is it a huge thing? No, I don't think it's a huge thing. But I was thinking this is very to the point earlier that I made about how this was kind of them in their element.
Mhm.
I was thinking, this whole episode played out like a Tom Clancy novel, right? Very similar to one of the episodes in season 7 when they stormed. What was that? Where they stormed that one base, and we got that one continuous shot of the Bad Batch, and kind of in their element again.
Yeah.
Very similar to that. But even after they had stunned her, like locking her, I mean, there was no time. I get it; they were rushed or whatever. But I don't know. It feels like they probably should have just did her in and be done with it. But
I mean, it's
get it. There's
kind of like, why not, right?
Right. I mean, she's already down, and she's not gonna. They're not cold-blooded murderers, but at the same time, I wouldn't put it past them. I wouldn't judge them if they had. I guess maybe just given what they've gone through and what they're going through right now. But
Yeah, I mean, the troopers weren't going to exactly switch to stun or anything. To your point earlier, right?
right, yeah, they're not going to go switch over. So all that said,
But no, you were not alone.
Tactical. No,
You were not alone, my friend.
Right. If we were wondering, yes, we were. Like, why are they stunning everybody? But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say it was more tactical in their approach, and more than anything, probably more than that, the risk of hurting more of the brothers probably goes against their long-term plan, which is to hopefully liberate them and free them in some way.
Right.
So we'll leave it at that. Excuse me. So I'm trying to think where we were now, because we had completely lost my train of thought and my track.
Moving towards the escape aspect of it.
Oh, yeah, so Tech slices into the security camera system. He's doing what he does really well. They split up. Echo and Wrecker go to the top, although we never see them. Next thing, they don't come back again until they join up and they're trying to get out of there, which is fine. We just assume they're out there kicking butt on the first 2 levels.
Yeah, they tripped an alarm at some point.
Yeah. Right. That's how we know they're still out there. And then Hunter, Tech, and GS8 take the main floor and the lower level. And this is, again, where I felt like it was very Tom Clancy-ish.
Yep.
And they got to kind of be in their element in going in and trying to free them, or free Senator Singh. And this is there's an interesting moment there where Hunter's he's kind of talking back or behind him to Tech and says that he wants him and Omega he gives him an order. I forget what the order is, but him and Omega and very tech-like says, that would be impossible because she's, not here. Right. But I think this is part of him. Yeah. This is part of the subconscious part of Hunter where if he was thinking thoroughly, if he wasn't thinking with his emotion or thinking with his heart and thinking with his mind, there's no reason why he would not have brought Omega, given what had all happened. And she's been able to prove herself. So this just kind of, for me, it kind of solidified this, the idea that this wasn't really his, if had that not happened in the last few episodes, she would be there. And his subconscious was saying, didn't even realize, didn't remember, because there would be no good reason why she wouldn't be. And so it was kind of a wake up call for him, I think, at that point. But how did you take that scene and when he calls out, gives the order for him and
it was kind of sweet. It was, and you could hear the disappointment in his voice, and he was kind of beside himself. Our Hunter was beside himself. They didn't remember that or recall that. She's just, like you said, she's just been part of the team. She's just there all the time. So why wouldn't she be there? And it was a reminder of the decision he had to make to keep her safe and do that. But yeah, I think it was good that we at least got that moment where she wasn't just an afterthought. She really is part of the team to him as well.
Yep. From there, we go back over. There's a lot of flip flopping, and normally I try to keep these in the same kind of bundle these up. But we go back over to Sid's place, and this is where Sid's playing the two patrons there in the bar. They're playing on the Jarek table, and Omega's cleaning up, making snarky comments, and Sid's like, "Hey, you're so good at this. Why don't you come in here?" And sure enough, she comes in as, quote, the expert, and she wins the game for her. And this is when they negotiate that, she realizes, wait a minute, you've got something special here, kid. And I'm going to take advantage of that. And there's so many parallels to like so many other movies where this is done. I've seen everything from Rain Man to, The Color of Money and Hustling People and so many great other parallels. But I think it makes sense. I mean, let's just pull the Band-Aid off on this one. We know later on that she ends up winning tons of money and she's a natural. She's gifted at this, and this is kind of her special thing. But
strategy, right? Yeah,
strategy. So is it really just the strategic element? And the follow up to that is, do you think we saw elements of that we didn't really pay attention? Because I've not had a chance to go back. I want to go back and watch some of the moments where she kind of made these very conscious decisions that kind of turned the tide, if you will, like the shot against Crosshair and a couple other ones. And to see if maybe there was something tactical about all of that on the surface we were not seeing because we were so hyper focused on, it's a physical ability that we're going to see demonstrated, with what she does and not necessarily, physically rather than, what she does strategically, if that makes sense. I haven't had a chance to go back and look at that, but what do you think that those powers are, and to what extent do you think that's going to go?
I think that remains to be seen. We've got to see just how doing Jajaric and saying you're really good at strategy, but Jajaric is one thing. I think applying that to a variety of other aspects, especially combat, is a little bit different. But it is curious, though, and I like that Hunter challenges her at the end of the episode. And, of course, we don't get to see any of it to see what happens, but I have a feeling she's probably going to win. But do you think I won't ask that question yet, but I don't remember anything from the previous episodes where she was the critical, strategic, fulcrum, for lack of a better word, that special piece that was missing, that she brought that strategic element in order to push the tide their way or to swing the pendulum just a little bit in their favor so they could actually accomplish something. There's been little moments here and there. I think that she's done something, but was it something strategic or more reactionary? I would tend to believe they were a little more reactionary. If someone remembers a little bit different, we'd love to see it in the chat, of course. But that's where I was at with it. But it is interesting that she had so much confidence with this and that this is her thing. And, why is this coming up just now is interesting, but I think it's something to see how this gets applied in the next several episodes to see if this really is something. And again, this is where I'm a bit confused though. And maybe you can help me, or maybe we're just going to have to wait. If she is a pure copy of Django, was Django all that strategic and things like that? I don't know that we've necessarily seen a lot of that with him. We don't really have that story. We certainly don't necessarily see it with Boba because, man, that guy was all sorts of things as a kid, at least, or as at this stage of his life. He's still getting there. But it just seems like a bit of a, you're talking like, what's the power? The power of strategy, I guess, is something, but that's not overly exciting, is it?
No, well,
It
no,
can't be. It can't be the only thing, right?
I
It
don't.
seems
Yeah, I don't. I hope her power isn't Dejarik plain. Like,
right.
she's really good at that table.
She's going to challenge the emperor, and then,
That's going to win the war that
that's
way.
right. That's right.
No, I don't think it's that. So there are a couple things, I guess. One, I don't, on the surface, it may be as simple as being able to see something and solve something quickly. All right.
Yeah.
So maybe if someone gives her a battle map and says, here are all the pieces, here's where everybody sits, and someone needs to assess this and make a decision about what the best approach would be, maybe there's something there where she can just take something and solve it, and it can be kind of anything. And she probably gets better at it the more she does it, right? Or quickly, or she's got an ability to kind of pick it up faster than the average person from that regard. So, because it didn't sound like she had any previous experience playing the game. It looked like she had just been an observer as she was cleaning, watching, picking up, understanding, figuring out the game on her own, and then going, oh, I've already figured this out. I know exactly how to play this game now and do all that. So maybe that's the ability, which I think would be awesome, because you could apply that in a lot of different scenarios, right? It opens up a lot of different ways for her to kind of be much more effective as a team member. In my head, my fanboy over the top, I'd love to see her like having, putting cameras on all of them and going alien style, where she's got a grid, a HUD, a heads up display where she sees everybody's movements and has a map, and she's calling the shots about enter now, go, you there, that what, I mean, that would be really cool to see, having a kid do all of that. And I think of something like Ender's Game, is it probably the closest. If you've ever read that book, the main character Ender is just that. Strategically, it's very similar. He starts off playing games, and he's a natural at all this stuff, and he's recognized for that. And so they bring him over. I'm going to get into Ender's Game now. They bring him into some like a galactic force, space force kind of thing, and they're fighting aliens. And so they pit these kids and they put them in these situations where they teach them the basics of strategy, and because of their abilities, because of Ender's ability, he's able to do things that no one's ever thought about except for one other person. And so from that perspective, it would be cool if this was more of like an Ender's Game thing, and that's exactly what happens. He ends up kind of commanding and calling shots for this war that's happening, although he's not in the war itself. He can see it all. So in my head, again, fanboying there, sorry for that, but that would be really cool, because it's like one of my favorite books ever, and I think it would be a neat approach, because I don't think we've ever had anything like that, except maybe the High Republic with Avar Kriss. But there you go, she's Avar Kriss reincarnated.
There you go.
Right. No, I'm kidding.
But it does lead questions to what were the Kaminoans doing, right? Or the Kaminoans, whichever one it goes.
Kaminoans.
Yeah. So it's a question about what they were doing, because strategy can be taught, right?
Sure. Yep.
And we know that she was doing, medical analysis and things like that. So being analytical is something that she's definitely been exposed to, I think, and that has had experience with. It suggests, at least at that way.
Right.
But it is curious, like, what were the Kaminoans doing? What was her purpose? And were they experimenting with her or doing other things as well to enhance something along her path? Now, granted, Tech said that she was pure, so there's some at odds with that kind of theory, but it's curious to watch. And again, they've got 6 episodes to kind of wrap all this stuff up in a sense, and tell us why Omega really is this important to warrant all of this attention and to warrant all the Cantina Cast discussion and debate. We're going to send Dave a note, Dave Filoni, and just say, hey, we spent a lot of time doing this.
Right. You're taking up time here.
Better be a payoff, son, or we're going to have to file a complaint.
Yep. He's going to tell you, yes, there will be a payoff. It'll be in season 4.
Right. Or we'd be like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little long to wait.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I get it. It's not the most sexy thing. It's not the most exciting thing on the surface. But, if that's the case, if that's the path they go down, there are ways to make it that way. So we'll see. I don't know if they're going to wrap all that up in 6 episodes. I don't think maybe there won't be an opportunity for it. And maybe they just explicitly say, here it is. And that's what gives us another thing to look forward to in season 2. Should they do a season 2? Who knows? Or maybe she pops up later down the road, and any one or number of the episode or series that people have already predicted that she would pop up in. But the big takeaway here is the cut. She said something like 30 to 60, somewhere they landed in a 30 to 60% range. And so this plays heavily a little bit later because this is what ultimately breaks them free of working for Sid. They have the opportunity at the end of this episode to not be a
This
part
is
of
actually what I liked. Yeah, Sid says you get a 30% cut, and Omega is thinking 60%.
Mm-hmm.
And she had like kind of this wry grin on her face, and Sid was like, "Yeah, I don't really have much negotiating power here." So
right.
Sid, Sid's a businesswoman or a business Trandoshan, whatever you'd like to call her, at the end of the day. So it made a lot of sense, and it sounds like they did really well.
Rob said that droid assistant sounded a lot like L3. Yes, she did. Was it Phoebe who voiced the droid? It was not Phoebe Waller-Bridges. It was something Clifford.
Yeah, but she was very, very, very similar though, and very in the spirit of it. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was great. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Sorry, it's another one. Maybe Boba knows something and is protecting her. Oh my goodness, the Boba Fett theories are abound right now, and we still may see him. I'm not putting it out. I'm not leaving it out there. I think it's still on the table. But let's get back to this. Was that moment where they kind of stormed the wine cellar of all places, which I thought was cool. I was like, wow, they've got their own label of wine there. But it was the thing that, and this is really a small thing, but I was like, oh, cool. There's an interrogation droid. But then I thought, okay, so what have they interrogated him for? Like, what is it they want to know? And I don't think we ever got the answer because the droid comes in. We get shades of episode 4, and they come in and rescue him. But I thought, what? Any thoughts? And
well, yeah, no. And this is actually the question. This is the real question of the week. We're going to throw out there a little later in the week, because she comes in there and says we're going to learn. They want to learn what his secrets are. But I was like, what? And then they didn't say what it was. And I'm like, okay, what am I? All right, let's think about this. What would a senator have? That is important for the CIS at this point. Is it a store of droids? Is it a resistance unit? Is it, I don't know, the codes to the Jedi neutron bomb? I don't know what it is, and I just want them to tell me what it is, because I
think it was the secret techniques that were used to age the wine, the grapes that were used in making the wine in the cellar. That's why they were there.
So they could apply it to clones?
Maybe.
We age clones like we age fine wines.
Or they're going to do a Skywalker label like old George Lucas there. I don't know.
And charge you triple for it. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. It's a fine label, though. I like the logo.
It is nice. I like it. I don't like the price tag. It was, but it was an interesting, it's something interesting debate. That's why we wanted to throw out there just on social media. We'll do that later this week. And everyone can kind of give us their 2 cents on that one of what would the senator be holding? What would he know? Or is he already seeing pockets of like a resistance and the rebellion? And is he part of, Bail Organa's group or growing group? Have we already seen these connections of old enemies now, seeing that they have interests aligning? Or, and what is that? So it's something that could be really debated. Did anything come to mind for you, or is it really just completely nebulous?
Nebulous, and maybe it's just part of standard operating procedures now, right? If there's somebody who is against the Empire, their first step 1 says, take them, interrogate them, find out what you know about them. It may not be anything, but everything is important at this point, So it could just be as general as that. But they made it kind of a big deal. So maybe that somebody just really wanted to get an interrogation droid into the series, and they thought, okay, here's the opportunity. Let's draw it up. But they kind of left it.
Right. What's disappointing about that? But at the end of the episode, I know we're jumping around a little bit. Sid just kind of walks them back, says, okay, let's talk about payment. So it doesn't really seem like we are going to see this good senator in the next episode. Maybe. I don't know.
No, I don't. I think he's one and done.
We've seen the titles of some of the upcoming episodes, and it's difficult to see where there's any connection with this storyline, but yeah.
The whole escape happens at this point. So Echo, Wrecker, they all kind of meet up again. This is where they do the harpoon line. They zip line down onto that walker, which every time I see those now, I think of Rebels and Gregor.
Where's the platform?
It's missing the platform and the fishing line and everything else that they were using. But they take over one of the walkers pretty quickly, which I thought was kind of cool, because it's like, okay, these guys, if anybody would know the weak points and how to get one of these or commandeer one of these, it's going to be them.
Hmm.
So that all made sense. But this is where that other walker just kind of appears magically, and no one heard it coming on them. I hadn't really thought about that, but I think that's funny.
Yep.
And that other walker kind of gets a shot off as it kind of as theirs gets around the corner and disables it, and so they're kind of put in a predicament where they've got to manually start this. They've got to push it, get out and push, if you will, which I thought was funny too.
I love how manual, like we have to fix this manually. And what that means is Tech needs to pull out his device and stare at the walker while he punches buttons in. I like how that's manual calibration and everything else, because this was exactly what happened with the transponder code, I believe, right?
Yes.
Back a few episodes ago. You had to get out and manually do it, rip it all out, and then just do some data stuff on it.
Yeah. No, it's all fine. I mean, we're poking fun at it, but we get it. It makes for it makes for a good cartoon in suspense. But,
right.
but yeah, when they said manually, I'm like, what do you mean? This thing weighs like 8 metric tons. What are you?
And they blew a hole in your back end. So what are you going to do? Where are you going to go stop by Walmart, pick up some parts?
Yep. Quick oil change, folks. Get the jack out.
That's right. We just need to flush the transmission fluid.
Yep. And Tech stays behind with Echo. This is where they go through that whole process of doing that. But what was really cool is it did, and this is where I'm like, I don't really care. I mean, yeah, we'll make fun of it, but at the end of the day, it gave us an opportunity to see Hunter and Wrecker work together.
Oh yeah.
It was awesome. I mean, they're sliding around, doing stuff, working off of each other. I like when Hunter takes hits them on the head with the hatch first, and then slams that grenade down in there. I mean, it was all really good stuff to kind of see them do something and really be, effective as a little team there. So more than anything, that was the big payoff for me.
Yeah, and I thought it was fun that we got to see Tech actually leading the charge. He was the first down the line shooting the stuns out there. Yeah, well, we actually got a good shot of it. We'll see later in the week. There are some of the advertising for social media, but it was really cool to see Tech kind of leading the way. We haven't really seen him shoot stuff before, I don't think.
Nah, he's not. He's more of a lover, not a fighter.
He's a bookworm, but yeah, he's got his head in his mobile device.
Right.
It reminds me of the old the old football games with the red dots that go around.
Coleco, yeah.
Yeah.
And television football.
Yeah.
Ooh. So and then and some more and more stormtroopers are starting to show up. This is where Tech and Echo are, they get surprised from behind. And there was a little bit in there earlier on where there was a vase, a vase,
priceless,
as we know it here in the U.S. Happy 4th of July, by the way. But they're, they keep the vase and they make a joke about it. Well, it comes into play here because I think it's Singh chucks that vase at somebody as a distraction at one of the stormtroopers, and that allows Echo and Tech to kind of get the upper hand on them.
Right. Yeah, the droid saved it. Yeah, the droid saved it and has been carrying it around the rest of this
entire episode. Yes. And then if you go back, I didn't hear it, but if you put the subtitles on, the droid yells out "Senator!" like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe you just did that!" I thought it was hilarious because it's subtle. You can barely hear it in the background, but she's upset that he tossed it after she had been lugging that thing around because she thought it was something that was important to him, and he was like, I didn't really care for it much anyways. Oh, anyways, they get their walker up and running, and then this is where it gets a little precarious because Singh tells them, "Hey, we need to head over there into that dead end area," and all of them are like, "This is it. This is where that other shoe's going to fall, drop." And he's like, "Hey, you got to trust me. We're kind of all in this together, kind of thing." And so they do, and I thought it was a really good, effective strategy. I like the idea of backing that thing up, blowing a hole in the side, and escaping through it, and then Wrecker blows up as they walk out. He ensures that rubble comes down and covers them up, and so it's pretty much a clean getaway. And now they're down in the sewers or whatever, or the underworld of Raxus at that point. But
and by the time they get all the wreckage out of the way to find out where they're at,
they're gone.
They're long gone. Yeah, no way to track them. So yeah, it was a good move.
Yeah. So they get away, and this is where Singh, right before we kind of cut over to the forest, Singh's about to jump on, and then he realizes like, hey, this doesn't feel right. I shouldn't be just leaving my people, which I would expect him to have felt, especially since he seemed like he was all about his people. Now he's just going to leave them there, and yeah, that's got to be a horrible sinking feeling. But of all people, it's Echo that comes forward and says, hey, you need to live to fight another day. And so now not only did we have Echo kind of go through this whole character development phase of trusting people he would have never trusted, but now he's bestowing wisdom on them in hopes that they're going to be able to and trusting them to do more with that a little bit later. It's kind of a big deal.
Mhm.
I like the fact that of all people, it was Echo. I will say this though, in the audio descriptions, it says it was Hunter. And so I'm
Hmm.
wondering if that was originally going to be Hunter and they switched it and made it Echo. I think it's more powerful. It's coming from Echo, given he was the one that was constantly saying, hey, these are separatists. What are we doing here? So
Yeah, and maybe I got it wrong. It could be that was 100% right. I thought they showed Echo's helmet. I think both him and Hunter were in frame though, so maybe I just looked at the wrong
mm,
character. I thought it was Echo. Anyway,
well,
it
it
doesn't
was
matter.
Echo. No, it was Echo that said it.
Oh, okay.
I think the audio description either got it wrong or they made a 0 hour change or they changed it before they updated the audio description.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Which what I'm saying is I think it was better coming from Echo and
Oh,
I like that.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Hunter wasn't on board with it either, so it works both ways.
Right.
And then, yeah, Chef Chris is telling us it was definitely Echo as well. So, all right, we have a consensus.
Yep. We can move on at this point. So we get back to Sid's and they arrive and they hear all this cheering and stuff coming out of Sid's bar, which is unusual given that place is a freaking ghost town. There's like never anybody but those two dudes in there.
It's fitting that Omega was accused of killing the vibe around the bar,
right.
and now she's 100% responsible for the vibe, bringing life back to it.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this too. This is not in our show notes, so don't get worried here, Jonesy. But I want everybody to go back and count the number of Gotans, the race that looks like a goat. There is an overusage of Gotans in this whole series. In this episode alone, there were two different ones. There was at least one in the last episode. There's one in the premiere. But go back and I'm going to go count them all. But I think with the exception of one, maybe two episodes, there's been a Gotan in every episode. And it's the same character model. Like, it's the same clothing, it's white. It's got the two black fingers. It's bizarre. I don't know what the deal is there, but I thought, okay, well, maybe they're hiding this one in there and it's like an Easter egg or something, but there is an excessive use of Gotans.
Man, so, now Dave's going to get 2 letters from us this week.
What is up with all the Gotans?
We've got an infestation of Gotans.
Infestation of Gotans. But yeah, so they come in there. Mega's playing some blue skin person. I don't know what species that was. I thought maybe it was a Chiss, but they don't have all the facial paint stuff on them. Like that. But either way, the point is she gets one over on this guy and wins a ton of money and everybody's cheering them on or cheering her on. But Hunter is like kind of upset because he said keep a low profile and this is anything but a low profile. Right. And now they've got all this unwanted attention on her because everybody knows in the area that she's some kind of phenom when it comes to Dejaric or strategy or whatever else. But the good news is Sid tells them that she's earned enough money to pay off their debt. So I guess at this point, they have every reason to leave because they've got unwanted attention and they're no longer indebted to her. So maybe this is the time that they go and move on. But do you think that's going to happen? And we can just kind of wrap it up with that. Do you think this is the point where we're going to get away from Sid's and are they going to go meet up with Echo, meet up with who?
Or Rex, yeah.
Yeah, Rex or something. Starting Echo Rex, yeah.
That's good. I mean, it's a good point because I think now, like you said, there's nothing to bind them to it. I think they still need money though, right? I mean, just because they have their debt clear doesn't mean that they've actually earned anything extra. Maybe this job has earned them something, so maybe that would be fair to apply that. But they still need money and resources, and they've got someone that they can reasonably trust, and that is going to not sell them out at least until their usefulness is outlived, I guess. But I don't think she sees that. She's got a mercenary force here that can go get a lot of things done. And she's got someone who can help, clean the kitchen while they're away on a mission too. Mm-hmm. So it's something I think that Sid's probably all too happy for them to hang around. But I kind of think that we probably start venturing away. I think this is the time to venture away from Sid's, right? We don't necessarily need home base being on Ord Mantell. It's okay for this to go back to the Havoc Marauder or something like that, to where we're a bit more mobile, right? And when we're a little more autonomous with where we're at, we don't have to be hamstrung back to a certain place every time. Although it would be a way to get back with Rex because they all know where they can meet up at, I guess. But I think it's time for us to move beyond Sid. I think she can still come up and be a resource, kind of like she was last week. She was just a passing comment, but it doesn't mean they have to turn her back on Sid or anything like that. But what about you? Do you think now it's time to break free of that group?
I mean, we got a few episodes out of it, and we talked about that kind of being a mission hub now. for lack of a better term. That's a
Right.
video game term. It felt like that, and I think it worked. They were able to kind of balance that without feeling like a mission hub. So with 6 episodes left, is that right? Six, yeah,
Yep.
6 back. You think about it. Normally, they create these in like 3-story arcs. It makes sense. I mean, if they left, I wouldn't be upset. To your point, she can still be around. She can be a resource that comes in and helps them out at some point. At the very end, there's a, she already demonstrated that she was good with the blaster or the bow and arrow, so she's got some kind of war experience or something in her background. So I think they could still bring her in here, and if not, I mean, they just table her and she becomes an asset for them going forward, or an asset for the Rebel Alliance, or what will soon be the Rebel Alliance. So
yeah, that may be something too if the Empire starts catching on that Sid's been helping them, and while they're away, they take her, and all of a sudden she has to be indebted to the Bad Batch at some point too.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a bit cliche, but it would be it would work as at the same time.
Yeah. But there are a lot of things that we still have to figure out, right? A lot of things we still need to wrap up. We've got obviously Crosshair still out there. We've toyed with the idea of liberating or somehow freeing the clones. Maybe it happens this season, maybe it doesn't, maybe it never happens, but it feels like that's gonna take a little bit of runway to build up to. So they may need 6 episodes to get all that done. I feel like Saul Guerrero has still got an opportunity to come back here. He seems to be
Rex,
giving a lot of grief to them. Yep, they've got Rex. We've got potentials for special guest stars like Ahsoka and some of the other folks. Not to give anything away, but there's a good chance that we may see somebody like Harris and Dula in this one coming up very soon. So there's a lot of stuff out there, and I'm like, I know nothing about that. All I'm saying is one of the titles that's coming up leads me to think, oh, wait a minute, I know who's on that planet, or I know who's been there, and it could very well lead to that. So I think there's still enough story here that if we broke away, it's fine, because there's still a lot of stuff that they need to get to, and I'd rather focus on that than have to be kind of tethered to the Sid mission hub kind of location. So I could go either way, I guess.
Yeah, and one other thing to kind of go back to Hunter and Omega as this episode wrapped up. Wrecker gives him a nudge when he walks by, when the place clears out, and Sid is informing him that she's taking care of all of their debt and all of that. Wrecker gives him this, bumps into him and nudges his arm and gives him this look, and you have to kind of look for the look, but it's there of I'm making a wide-eyed face, people who are just listening, to where it's like, you need to talk to her, do it, don't chicken out, eat your pride, and just go and tell her, she did well, basically, and he appreciates what she's done. And and his way of doing that was, so you think you're good at strategy? Well, let's have a game. And if you beat me, then it won't be a question anymore. You will be on every single mission with us after the fact. You can earn your way into that, and kind of prove your worth in that respect, which I think was interesting, because we've always considered Hunter a bit more the strategic thinker of the group anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he has kind of natural leader ability, but in Omega, she tells him, I felt helpless, and I think that was probably the last thing he was trying to make her feel, right? That she was helpless or not useful in any way. It's just, at the end of this episode, I think he's come to realize, okay, that was not a good decision, and I regret it. She would have completely been able to hold her own. We could have used her on the mission. I mean, I'm sure all of that was kind of running through his head. I took that whole match at the very end as there's no way I'm going to win this. I don't think he was going into it thinking he was going to win. I think he was just looking at it as an opportunity for her to kind of get one up on him, get back at him, and kind of, make him eat his own words in that way. But it was also maybe a test to see what the big, fuss was about.
And it's that olive branch too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of, let's sit down and have a game then, and you could show me what you've got. You could show, along the lines of where you were going, and just show me how good you are, and give the opportunity to the kid that says, okay, see if you can beat your old man,
right?
And regardless of whether she does or doesn't, I think it's an opportunity for them to at least have that bonding moment of sorts, that he'll respect her enough to give her those opportunities going forward.
Yeah, and I think this. I mean, I think we're done. I don't think this is. I think this is finally the nail in the coffin of whether or not Omega stays behind. I think at this point she's done more than enough on her own to prove that she's not helpless and that she is a part of the team and she can be useful in a lot of different ways. And couple that with the fact that, he's acknowledging that I think he's acknowledging that he didn't make the best decision there. I don't think we're going to go back to that, which was the problem when I said earlier on this episode. I felt like we regressed a little bit, and I kind of understood why, but I don't think we're going to have that again. I think she's in at this point going forward until something tears them apart or
yeah. And earlier in the show, you were saying we were trying to figure out if we had a moment where Omega had kind of a strategy type of moment. You remember back with the beast that chewed on energy? I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
One of the very first, that was maybe an example of some of that, where she had to observe the behaviors of what it was interested in, what it needed, and then come up with a quick plan in order to, get the whatever the power cell or whatever it was called, and distract the animal so she could get out of there. So maybe that was one example.
Yeah, I think I really do hope it's kind of high level, just being able to analyze something and come up with a quick strategy,
Right.
kind of plan on the fly. That would be kind of neat. I think there's some good uses of that they could deploy here in future episodes.
Agreed.
All right. So I think we've covered all the final thoughts. I guess where do we go from here? We've already talked about that. We talked about the debt being paid off. And I guess the big burning question is, do you think they go to Rex at this point?
Do they need to go to Rex at this point?
No, I don't think they do.
I don't think so. Again, we don't really know what Rex is fighting for or who he's with either. But maybe this would be an opportunity. I'm on the fence about whether I want to go back to Rex, to be honest with you. I love Rex so much. And I think this is such an interesting place of his journey. But I just don't. I think we end up having to go back to Rex at some point because there is some unresolved, hey, we'll help you, you help us. But maybe another couple of episodes away here.
Yeah. Well, and don't forget, they left it open. They both said, hey, you call me if you need anything, and I'll call you if I need anything. So
absolutely,
it could be Rex coming to them.
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
And I don't think they would say no if he did at this point either. I mean, they're in a good opportunity. They're in a good position right now to kind of make a decision about what they want to do on their own. So who knows? Maybe she made enough money that they don't need any money now. Including, they've gotten the Raxus mission. That seemed like it was a pretty big payoff for rescuing Senator Singh, plus the money that Omega made. Maybe they do have enough in their coffers to kind of say, okay, we've got enough to head out and do our own thing, or Rex comes knocking on the door and they say, yeah, let's go. We'll help you out here because it's going to give us purpose and direction again. Who knows? Yeah,
I think my thoughts around Rex is going to be, how he was introduced to us before as kind of a shadowy figure on the hologram. I think it'd be something similar. He shows up at the end of an episode and it leads us into the next one. It was pretty cliche, but it works. It's pretty powerful to do it that way.
Yep.
Yeah, Chef Chris, we need more bow action. Yeah, I agree. I want to see Sid in action, though. I really do want to see her. And every time you say it, I don't have much reaction to it because I just don't want to get my hopes up. But I definitely want to see what she's capable of doing.
Yeah.
Because you just know she's got to have some sort of skill. Yes. It'd be awesome if she used to be a bounty hunter or something like that herself.
That would be awesome. I like that idea. Trandoshan bounty hunters. Yeah. Pretty cool. I don't know if you've been keeping up with those guys or not.
I don't know if they've ever had one do it before. That was a joke.
I was thinking maybe female, but no, I think there was one in Legends as well. And then we've had Trandoshan Jedi as well.
Yep, exactly.
Skier.
Well, no, we had others in Legends.
We've had other ones too, yeah. But that was one that comes to mind. So, all right. I think that's going to do it. I mean, we got through this pretty good. Hour and a half, considering we did about 20 minutes of news. But overall, again, like you said, I felt like it was a good character development episode. We got to see them in their best moments. And, it certainly sets it, if nothing else, it at least sets it up so that at this point we can kind of go in any direction. It doesn't feel like they're tied down to Sid anymore. So that opens up a lot of opportunities, I think.
I agree. I mean, as we're getting into the home stretch of this season, I guess, at least, right? We'll just call it the season. Now like you said, now we're free to start to set up these last 4 episodes, these last 3 or 4 episodes, which might be a bit more intense. And I'll have a lot more packing of events into it. But now we have to start moving the pieces, get into place, right? So what are the things that are going to be necessary as we get towards a finale for the series or for the episodes or for the season rather, whatever that might be. And, where does everything need to be? And that'll be interesting to see how that starts to take place here, because again, Filoni & Company don't do things willy-nilly. They usually have an intention for some of the seeds they've planted over time and some of the things that we've seen, but not really had applied quite yet. And that's only a few things here and there. But now we need to start to see them coming together, and how do they fit, and where do we start to align all of the parts so they can actually resolve some of the things we have, and then what surprises do they have for us here in the next several episodes.
Yeah. This, as you were talking, I was thinking we're actually ending like, this feels like it is the end of the second act, and we're going into the third act of this season now.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. First one is the first act being them escaping, figuring out what they need to do. The second act was kind of really that whole middle part with Sid and learning who they were and working together and doing missions and all that and growing. And now they're a cohesive team. I think for the most part, I felt like maybe Tech and Echo still need some resolution there. They need to work some things out. But for the most part, I would say they're kind of a good working team. They've all know their roles now, at least. And again, they're ready to move on. So I think we are going to kind of come around the corner at this point and go into this big finale. So I wouldn't put it past them to put some big stuff in these last 6 episodes at this point.
Yeah, and I think this is always the part we get a little concerned about as you get ramped up for those last, several episodes. These middle ones here, if we're 6 out, these 2 or 3 here, do they start to feel like filler? And I think some people have had some criticisms of whether or not we're already at that point as you get to this mid-season. And you get the high of the mid-season finale, but on the other side of it, it gets a little softer. And again, things are moving, but they're at a more deliberate pace, a little bit slower pace. So are we, is it something that are we going to get this criticism again where things are moving slower than what we wanted to? So I think temper expectations here for the next couple of episodes, because I think that's always the risk is things are, I use the word deliberate very well, deliberately, because they have to plot certain things out and they want to build certain aspects. So as long as they all fit together, I think we could be patient and we can get that payoff that we're hoping for and that we expect to get as we get to the last several.
Yep. The over under on Gotans is pretty high.
Yeah, probably 22 at this point.
Yeah, for sure. In the last 6 episodes. In fact, that whole last episode is going to take place on the home planet of Gotans. So
yes,
just get ready for it.
Yeah.
All right.
Sith apprentices of Gotans.
All right, let's get out of here. I want to thank everybody for coming on to the live recording tonight. Been a lot of talk, a lot of chatter, good interaction, and great comments. Thank you for your help too. And Jonesy, do you want to kind of pitch the Patreon stuff and where they can find us?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, patreon.com/thecantinacast. You will find everything we've done out there. We've got a few tiers for you. $1 if you want to just support the show. We've got the After Dark tier, which opens you up to majority of what we got, both in the past and what we're doing now. And then we've got the green milk tier, which we've still not renamed. It's the $5 tier. Again, this is all a month there. Someone actually reached out to us and said that they were very nominal in value. And this really intentional for us. I mean, we've explored some other things, but we want this stuff to be accessible for people. And we're not doing it to make tons of money, right? We're not going to make tons of money at this because this is just for fun, right? And so everything we earn gets put right back into the show, but it's supposed to be low for everybody to be able to enjoy it because we want as many people to hear, all the things that Albert has to say as much as possible.
With Albert's.
Yeah, we're going to have a Gotan specific episode here. That might be a $50 tier. We're getting greedy now, folks. But yeah, so you can find all that on patreon.com/thecantinacast, earglymedia.com/discord if you want to check us out there and check out all the amazing shows that we've got on the Early Media Network. We've got Whiskey, we've got Scream, we've got history, film history, we've got film appraisers, we've got all sorts of fantastic stuff coming up. earlymedia.com if you want to see all the amazing shows that we got. You can listen to them right from there as well. And if they have a live stream, you can actually click and watch the videos right in there as well. So we'd love to see more people show up. Again, appreciate everybody who's been signing up. We've had this really nice steady stream of people reaching out and subscribing to YouTube as well. So make sure that you're subscribing and hitting the bell to make sure that you are notified whenever we get ready to post another or whenever we get ready to go live again.
Yeah. Also, if you've not had a chance to drop us a few good words on Apple iTunes and leave a review, please do so. We'd really appreciate that. Those are always great to have in our back pocket. So thanks for doing that. If you do,
or wherever you listen to your shows. Yeah, Apple's of course kind of the main one, but wherever you do, if you have a chance to review us, please do. We do see all of them, I think, or most of them.
We see most of them. Yeah, just right. We don't see the bad ones because we just delete those. So
Man, you're so.
I know.
Some people believe that, man.
No, we don't. We don't. I don't have the power to do
No,
that.
we like constructive criticism as well, but you can just ping us on Discord with those.
Right. Don't leave us a 1-star review.
We love you, folks. We appreciate everything.
All right, we're going to get out of here. I updated the Patreon outro finally. I tweaked the audio finally. Everybody's updated, so you'll get to see your name on there. And yeah, I guess we'll see you guys on the next episode for episode 378. That's just crazy that we're doing that. So we'll see you guys next time.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.